I believe we can start. There are a lot of people joined so far.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, now that we have the quorum and we have the approval of our host, I want to take the opportunity to welcome everybody to ABD Society, the Analytics and Big Data Society. I also want to welcome everyone to our very first signature event of the year. The topic of discussion today is being led by Chuck McShane, who is also on the board of the ABD Society. And what he's going to talk about is the tech talent, the demand and supply in Charlotte. Since 2010, Charlotte region has emerged as a leader in tech growth. We have had one of the top growth in the country in tech talent. Now, as companies across all industries have scaled up their analytics, user experience, and software development teams, Charlotte region has almost doubled in their tech talent pool. And I bet in 2021, we're going to see a significant growth as well. To get a better view of the region's tech talent growth, the city of Charlotte, the Charlotte Business Alliance, of which Chuck is part of, and Slalom, commissioned a deep dive study of talent in the sector. That's what today's topic is. So let's welcome Chuck McShane. And before I pass the baton to Chuck, I want to remind everybody that our next signature event is on February 18th. Please keep an eye out for the emails that Boyana is going to be sending. I want to thank Boyana and everyone on the board and everyone on this panel and the attendees to take time out today and attend the event. Over to you, Chuck.
Thanks, Rishi, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I'd like to introduce the rest of the panel from the research study team, both from the Charlotte Alliance, Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, and the City of Charlotte. First up, we have Rob Horton, the Chief Marketing Officer of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. Rob began his career at Nestle in 1989, and prior to joining the CLT Alliance, he was the Vice President and Director of Client Engagement at Ray Ward. He served on several nonprofit boards in his career, including the Blumenthal Performing Arts Marketing Committee and the Beaumont School and Ronald McDonald House in Cleveland. His Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with the concentration in marketing from John Carroll, and an MBA in Finance and Organizational Behavior from Case Western Reserve University. Proud dad of 3 adult children. He's also an avid foodie, and he spends countless hours in the gym, so he's able to enjoy many of his favorite meals. Alyssa Brown from the City of Charlotte is a business recruitment project manager, and program manager focused on research and labor market analytics. She also helps the City of Charlotte sell the City of Charlotte to prospective companies by providing them with critical information about labor costs, local talent pool, educational attainment, real estate, demographics, cost of living, and more. She's originally from Winston-Salem, but has lived in Charlotte for 6 years. She has a BA in political science and psychology from Virginia Tech and a master's in public administration from UNC Charlotte. When she's not working, she enjoys snuggles with her cat, learning new recipes to cook and bake, traveling, and working out at her local gym. She's also getting married in October, hopefully if everyone continues wearing their masks. And we also have Emily Cantrell, the Senior Manager of Talent Development for the City of Charlotte. She was the Chief of Staff for Mayor Jennifer Roberts from 2015 to 2017. She has a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Urban Studies from Furman University and a Master's of Science in Organizational Development from Queen's University. She's currently the Vice Chair for the Board of Directors of the Children's and Family Services Center. She lives in Charlotte with her husband, Wade, who is a CMPD officer, and their 2 children. Fun fact, she grew up in Iowa and was the only Iowan at her college, Furman University in South Carolina. I was going to get out of doing the fun fact for me, but you can see it on the wall there. I'm a professional musician if you count being paid to stop playing. So that's my fun fact. But we'll kick off the presentation as Rishi was mentioning. Tech talent has been a growing sector in the Charlotte region for the last several years, and is continuing to be a big core part of our talent and business recruitment strategy. And I'll start off by saying that traditionally, when we thought of businesses, when we thought of economic development, economists have really focused on industries. What businesses produced, what they did. And that was the most important thing when considering economies and economic growth. Your industry group was your competitive advantage. So when we look at the tech industry, Charlotte had some big players like Microsoft and IBM and a few others, but it wasn't in the big leagues when it came to that tech industry. Well, tech is different than other industries because tech skills are needed for every type of company. So for tech, we needed to take a different lens. We needed to move away from this institutional focused look and toward a people focused talent lens. So what we did was start with the data, which I'm sure this group can appreciate. The data tells a really encouraging story. If you look at the set of tech talent that we focused on, which is primarily in software development, QA testing, info security, and networking, really a software-based, office-based type of talent, excluding some of the hardware that's usually mixed in. The Charlotte region doubled in employment during the 2010s. So we went from about 30,000 people in this talent pool to more than 60,000. We were well above national average growth rates, especially in 2011 and 2017. And we moved from being considered a small tech market to a large tech market. The growth rate has leveled off a little bit since then, but we've had a lot of great announcements come online that should increase the pipeline. So the way we're looking at it is we've moved into the big leagues now when it comes to tech talent. Now we need to figure out how to stay here and continue to compete. And part of remaining competitive is doubling down on our strengths. And where Charlotte is particularly strong is in finance and professional services. So about 34% of all of our tech talent is based in those two sectors, compared to about 23% nationwide. So this has advantages and disadvantages, but given the growth of fintech and the emergence of tech as a strategic driver, this is crucially important for us. Tech is innovating across a number of sectors, and we've seen that growth particularly in finance. We develop on that. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, you're also seeing some emerging growth in the health tech sector. So that's also a heavily regulated industry, and some of the regulatory information security skills that were developed in the finance business can be applied to health as well. So we have an advantage when it comes to that. In addition, we're also growing manufacturing hub. People don't typically think of this, but manufacturing contributes almost as much as finance to our regional GDP. So those two industries account for about 30% of our economy. Manufacturing is a big hub. Manufacturing typically lags behind in tech adoption, but this is an area where we should look at growth in industrial automation and other areas of the tech sector. So all that gives us a good database grounding, good quantitative grounding. But if we're going to take this people-based lens and talent-based lens, we needed to get insights and feedback from the tech community. So we did that through a comprehensive research process. We did about 255 in-depth surveys, 40-ish in-depth interviews with talent employers, staffing agencies, and educational institutions. And through this, we covered a number of insights. It may be difficult to read, but we also had we also were conscious of the demographic breakdown of this industry, making sure it was representative. And we think we captured a pretty representative sample of how the tech sector looks. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of diversity and inclusion in this sector. And this gives you a look at what our sector looks like in Charlotte in terms of tech talent. We're about on par with national average when it comes to the white portion of tech talent. We're slightly underrepresented in terms of Black or African American talent, but we have more Black or African American talent in the tech sector in the Charlotte region compared to nationally, but it's smaller than the broader workforce in the Charlotte region. About on par with the representation of Asians and Asian Americans. The Hispanic or Latino population is smaller than national averages. We skew also heavily male, which is 73% of the tech talent in the region is male, which is on par with national averages. And we skew slightly older. And I think that has something to do with the professional services orientation. Business knowledge, domain knowledge is important. So we skew slightly older. That 35 to 44-year-old age group is our largest age group in tech talent. Also pulled this data more recently, taking a look at where the skills that are highly in demand in the area are, and you can see that cloud is a big part of this. Java is driving a lot of the Java developers are regularly the top requested job, advertised job. But you're also seeing DevOps, Scrum managers, Scrum masters, .NET developers moving up here as well with those specific skills around cloud, business requirements, scripting, all of this moving up as we're moving into more of a advanced tech space, away from kind of the systems info security focus we had earlier on, based around the banks. But there's more data where this comes from. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but we're happy to provide any more information on that as we go forward. So we also want to take a look at where tech talent lives and where tech talent works, because particularly now we're all coming to this event from our homes. So a lot of us are working from homes, and that's especially true in the tech sector. So while office-based work is concentrated in the Uptown, South End, University City, Steel Creek area, with some smaller clusters in Catawba County around the CommScope headquarters and Concord, where tech talent lives is much broader. And we're going to talk more about this. My colleagues will talk more about this later and when we get to the recommendations and some of the insights we had. But the region is becoming more and more important. The regional amenities, lifestyle is becoming more important because we've now become untethered from an office space. So office culture is not as important as regional culture anymore, or lifestyle amenities. And that has to drive our focus on talent attraction, particularly in the tech industry. And this data point underscores that. This was taken after COVID began. Only about 9% of all tech talent workforce that we surveyed expects or wants to work all or mostly in an office going forward. 55% expect to be all or mostly remote. That's a fundamental change, and something we're going to have to grapple with going forward. So this gives you kind of an overview of some insights, some data around this. We compiled these into 3 main insights about tech talent today and tech talent into the future. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Alyssa, to detail that.
Hi, let me get control of the screen here. So after understanding what the tech talent workforce is in terms of demographics and experience, we really wanted to understand why they're coming to Charlotte, what drives them here, and some future trends so that they can stay. Sorry, I think I'm not able to switch the slides, Chuck. For some reason. There we go. Okay. So the first kind of trend that emerged is that entry-level talent is here and it's coming in droves. 68% of employers that we surveyed agreed that their companies can easily recruit really highly talented and qualified entry-level candidates within the Charlotte region. Beyond that, it's a little more difficult to recruit mid to experienced candidates for their jobs within the region. Only 32% of the employers said that mid to late career and leadership and executive experienced candidates were easy to pull within the region. So a lot of companies are having to look outside for the more highly experienced tech workers. However, there was a strong sense that our Charlotte region is a strong market for IT management and network talent, but high demand positions like DevOps and software development and data science are more challenging to fill within the region. We don't have a problem importing talent. And I think with this was a very interesting time to do this study because we started it right when the pandemic hit last March, really kicking off in April. And so as kind of trends from the pandemic and workflows have emerged, we've been able to kind of tie that with trends that we've seen through, different media outlets reporting where talent is moving. And we've seen that importing talent is even easier during this time because a lot of people are moving out of those really high priced markets like New York and San Francisco. So this region is an easy sell because we are a big city, but we have a great cost of living, and especially compared to those other more well-known tech markets. So that is a really big advantage that's appealing to a lot of tech candidates across the country. We asked our survey candidates why they moved to the Charlotte region, and they expressed a lot of factors why they move here, but the plurality of respondents said that they moved here because of a job, and that was their kind of key driver was compensation. The lower cost of living is a really big attractor for candidates moving here from outside the region. Like Chuck mentioned, office culture and workplace benefits, especially at the time of the survey, were pretty much irrelevant. So that was not a big concern for people or for tech workers for why they're moving. But I think that eventually it will come back into play, office culture, but I think for at least the short term, it's going to be pretty full remote work for tech workers across all industries. I did want to mention that in December, LinkedIn came out with a report listing Charlotte as one of the top cities for attracting workers that are migrating out of those big cities, not just tech workers specifically, but we know that that's a pretty big draw. So it's exciting to see that a lot of people are picking Charlotte to move to, and that's really increasing our talent base. We're definitely going to keep track of metrics once some more concrete data comes out around that, and hopefully we'll have an update in a few months to really cement that fact that a lot of people moved here during this pandemic. So ultimately, career opportunity and cost of living and growth of our overall region are key factors for getting people here. What keeps people in this region is really the culture and the community. A lot of people didn't necessarily expect Charlotte to be the city that it is if they come from outside of the region. And our survey respondents mentioned an inclusive community and thriving technology culture that has some work to do, but is really keen on diversifying itself. So I think that those are going to be really big factors for keeping talent engaged in the tech sector here and keeping them living here in the Charlotte region. Overall, people mentioned, the obvious factors of Charlotte. We've got great weather, we're great geographic location. Not only do we have a beach and mountains, but it's a pretty easy trip if you want to get really anywhere in the country because of our airport. So a lot of people cited those factors for reasons why they stay. Next, we'll talk about the trends that are really going to shape the tech workforce in the future. Vendors. This was actually a really interesting topic that I hadn't necessarily expected to come out of this study, but we've been doing a lot of research into the kind of skill sets that'll be necessary for the future of tech workforce. And technology vendors are really heightening skill demands associated with digital transformation, advanced analytics, big data, cloud services. Vendors like Amazon Web Services have really gamified technology training, incentivizing learning on their platforms. And as companies shift to using those services, they're going to have to hire talent that's experienced and knows how to navigate through those. Another trend that will emerge in the future is legislation around data privacy. I know that that's been in the news a lot lately, especially tech companies, whether or not they should monitor the content on their platforms and all that stuff. So I think that there's going to be a lot of political influences in the tech space overall. That will be really interesting to see how demand for workers and occupation shifts based on that. Data privacy is key, and it's really plays to Charlotte's advantage, especially because our finance sector is so big. So that's something that we will monitor as that issue becomes even more important. Additionally, technology is taking its place alongside business as more of a core strategy and not just the IT department. Employers continue to invest in these digital transformations, and they're integrating these technology shifts into their strategies to drive their bottom lines. And that's, traditionally not been the case. It's typically been, your IT department is there to handle kind of the back end systems. But now as technology really becomes the bread and butter of companies and the services that they're able to offer, positions are really demanding more of those kind of strategic decision-making skills, management qualities in candidates. And that's something that we heard from the technology workers that we surveyed, that it's harder to acquire those leadership and business specific skills. There's kind of weak infrastructure when it comes to mentorship and moving up in firms in the Charlotte region. And so Emily and Rob will talk about kind of how the recommendations to address that specifically. Something I thought was pretty timely. I don't know if many of you saw that Jeff Bezos was stepping down from Amazon later this year, and the person that is replacing him as CEO is the chief of their cloud services department. So these are people who are going to increasingly be expected to assume leadership positions, and that's something that we should be training our talent for. Finally, technology workers are redefining traditional pathways. They're more nimble than other professions and constantly having to learn new skills, new languages, new everything. I know you all are familiar with that. So it's really critical that we build an infrastructure that allows our tech workers to have access to learning these new technologies as they emerge. We heard that our tech talent is conflicted between searching for security and longevity in their careers and wanting to be at the forefront of innovation in the next big thing. So we kind of heard that they can easily acquire tech skills, but not necessarily other expertise and experience. So that's something that we would be paying attention to and really working with our tech companies and education institutions in the region to try and promote and streamline. So now I'm going to pass it off to Rob to talk about the insights and the recommendations that came out of all of these findings that we had.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alyssa. I appreciate it. So let's see if I can take control of this, Chuck. I don't know. Let's see. Hold on. Chuck, can you advance the slide or not? Thank you. All right, so let's start with kind of, as we move into the insights and the recommendations, I think as you have clearly seen and heard from the previous slides, tech talent is critical to the future growth of the region, regardless of the type of business that you're in. And there are two important ways that we need to ensure that we have the tech talent pipeline that we need. One is to recruit, so getting new talent into the region. And then two is to grow our own talent here by partnering with industry and workforce development partners to ensure that supply and demand are aligned. All of this with the goal of developing the Charlotte region into a top destination for diverse technology talent now and moving forward. So as we kind of summarize some of the learnings that are leading to our insights and recommendations, we'll go to the next slide. The first here is really talking about tech talent today. And we are fortunate that we have a region that almost 100 people a day move to for all types of opportunities, but for many of the same reasons that we heard about in this study. So it's cost of living, it's quality of life, and once they're here, they stay for the community and the culture that is Charlotte. And we found this to be particularly strong within the tech community. and that being very attractive for the talent that's already here. We have the opportunities, of course, to grow the talent we have, and specifically in the area of non-technical skills. So as Alyssa pointed out earlier, our ability to recruit entry-level talent is fairly easy. More senior talent, some of which requires, non-technical skills to be successful, isn't always here in the region. So our ability to kind of build the skill sets of management and leading of the tech workforce and strategic thinking is going to be critically important. And then we also have an opportunity to align our workplace needs, which are continuing to evolve with the tech talent supply. So as we look forward to the tech needs for tomorrow, what we're seeing is that more so than probably any other sector, the tech talent needs are continuously changing, which is exciting in and of itself because it's creating new opportunities for skill set growth. But what's interesting is that the region isn't often top of mind as a destination for tech talent. So our effort in recruiting tech talent needs to be more intentional. And as Alyssa said, tech roles are increasingly getting a seat at the table when it comes to core company strategy, which is a great opportunity, but it also highlights different skill set development needs for the tech workforce in order to make that happen. So as we looked at kind of tech talent needs today and technology for tomorrow, we arrived at these 4 recommendations, which we're going to go into more detail with in the upcoming slides. So I'm not going to talk about them here on this side specifically. Let's move on to the opportunity number 1. So as it relates to the speed of change within tech and the workforce rapidly changing, even more so in the pandemic. So Chuck showed you this pie chart on the right earlier in the presentation that just talks about, that flexible work locations have been accelerated by the pandemic, which makes regions like Charlotte, with a great cost of living and a high quality of life, even more attractive to this workforce. And by developing kind of an ongoing feedback loop, leveraging organizations already in the region and employers will help us stay abreast of the changes to ensure our tech talent messaging is not only relevant, but also motivating. Finally, it doesn't look like the demand for tech talent will subside in the near future at all. In fact, 85% of the employers that we talk to when we ask them about their tech talent needs all said that they would be adding tech talent headcount in the next few years. So it's critical that we make sure that we have a robust enough pipeline in order to satisfy the in-market needs. So if that's our first recommendation. So let's go on to the second, which as we talked about a few minutes ago, specific messaging to the tech talent out of market is going to be critical. So one of the things that we heard in the survey really quickly is that our knowledge of the dynamic tech community that's already here in Charlotte is low outside of the market. So we need to educate kind of those outside of the market in order to attract. The second is that our retention rate, once somebody in a tech role does arrive here in the Charlotte region, is incredibly high. So out of all of the respondents that we talked to, overwhelmingly, they all said that they would want to stay here in the Charlotte region for 5 years or more. So any investment that we make in attracting tech talent to the region has an incredibly efficient return because we're able to retain those that workforce in order and keep them here in the region. So those are our first 2 recommendations. So first is let's stay abreast of the very dynamic tech community and how quickly it's changing to make sure that we're remain relevant. And 2, let's be very intentional with the messaging that we promote outside of market in order to ensure that we're attracting the tech talent that we need to continue to grow in the region. So with those, I'm going to turn it over to Emily, and she's going to take you through the last two recommendations.
Thanks, Rob. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here with you today. I think one of the biggest opportunities we have for promotion and attracting tech talent is being really intentional about the type of talent we're wanting to attract and advance into our market. And we believe from the findings of the study that Charlotte has a real opportunity to excel in growing the diversity of our workforce. And that's for a number of different reasons. One, we sit in the Southeast. We're one of the largest metropolitan areas in the Southeast, one of the largest tech markets in the Southeast. And so we think our natural kind of geographical diversity and demographic diversity provides us an opportunity to grow the diversity of our technology workforce. But we understand that that has to be a very intentional strategy. I'm proud that our community has taken a lot of steps around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have several strategic initiatives at the corporate level as well as the political level to advance Black executives in different industries, as well as grow the number of minority students participating in STEM educational initiatives. So we believe that where we stand is a good launching point for really trying to strengthen our market as one of the most diverse technology talent pools in the nation. And as you can see, we had agreement from our employers surveyed that our region is supportive of a diverse and inclusion technology workforce, but we do have opportunities for growth. One of the ways that we think we could strengthen the diversity of our tech workforce is by acknowledging that a lot of our technologists participate in affinity groups. I mean, this by its nature is an affinity group of specialists in this field. And so we do think that there's opportunity for these groups to think about how they can expand and diversify some of their membership base and help us in our attempts to continue to attract minorities and women into this field. Some other recommendations around this initiative is to look at some of the more non-traditional entry points into technology. So I think we're all kind of watching what the trends are around traditional four-year degrees and non-traditional training and development programs into technology in terms of pipelines into entry-level positions within this field. I know just in my work, we're seeing more and more examples of non-traditional training opportunities where our local companies are committing to hiring from these programs. And the participants in this program often do not have a traditional four-year degree and may not ever go on to get one. And so I do think there's opportunity within our local market to look at some of those non-traditional pathways into the field. Particularly during COVID, the community has spent a lot of money in providing upskill opportunities to displaced workers. And we know that a lot of those displaced workers have selected technology as a subject for continued training or for a career transition. So we think with continued strong corporate and political leadership in this space and some very intentional messaging and marketing, that we can continue to invest to grow a diverse workforce and strengthen the existing programs that are already here. Next slide, Chuck. The next recommendation is really just doing more of what we have been doing, right? Which is strengthening our partnerships across the community with employers, educational institutions, growing our relationship with vendors as emerging stakeholders in this field and in our local market, as well as our recruiting firms to align on these needs, messaging, and strategies. We are doing these presentations to groups such as yours because it's important that we get the message out about what we have found, but also more so to ask for continued support and strategic support on advancing these initiatives. So We know that our survey is already out of date, right? It was taken almost 6 months ago. The field is rapidly changing. Emerging technologies are rapidly integrating into our market, particularly because of COVID. And so we know we're already, this is already a study that probably needs to be updated within the next 6 to 9 months. And so we want to continue this kind of iterative communication cycle and establish a more formal partnership so we can get more real-time data and feedback about the state of our local technology market. Keeping informed about tech talent trends and needs from our major employers will help us to continue to position Charlotte as one of the leading tech markets in the nation. And it will help Alyssa and I and Chuck and Rob and the project management team at the Alliance continue to sell the assets of the city as it relates to technology. We have an event coming up with the Charlotte Business Journal where we're highlighting the technology sector. That'll be on February 18th, and we encourage you all to tune in because one of the topics of that panel is going to be the diversification of our tech industry. So we'll be featuring companies in healthcare, as well as data analytics who have chosen Charlotte for their tech expansion and who are hiring talent outside of a traditional financial services role. So look for more information about kind of this formal partnership. We're still talking about what this will look like moving forward in the community, and we welcome your feedback today as a part of that. But we will continue to be in front of our tech community with updates on this work, and certainly want to be responsive to your ideas about how we can continue to advance this notion of a strategic partnership and alignment in the Charlotte tech community. So that's the last slide for recommendations. I think that's the last slide in the presentation, other than just saying thank you for listening to us for 39 straight minutes of talking. We definitely want the rest of the meeting to be interactive, so please share your questions with us, and look forward to hearing your feedback. So thank you for your time.
Thank you all for speaking. It's always hard to do this over Zoom, but I envision everybody standing up and clapping at their home, and I'm sure that's exactly what's going on right now. So thanks for sharing this all with us. As Emily mentioned, we are taking Q&A. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section. We will answer as many as we possibly can. I have a couple that I'd like to get things started with. So I thought that was fascinating, and one of the things that I'm kind of trying to wrap my mind around is this idea of what should Charlotte's technology brand be? And what I mean is, like, a lot of areas are known for the companies that actually work there. Like Raleigh is known for Red Hat and IBM and others. And I think we have a little bit of a rap of being known for some large financial institutions. Do you have any thoughts on what our technology brand should be if it's not directly tied to the employers that we have here?
I can start this feedback, John, and then please, Alyssa, Emily, Chuck, join in. But one of the things that's very exciting about the city, and we all experience it every day, is that Charlotte is, as a city and as a region, continues to evolve and grow. And that is very exciting to the tech community. The idea of being able to shape and kind of have the opportunities to become part of that momentum is incredibly appealing. So, as we're beginning to, refine and think about our messaging, John, I think it's, tapping into, that insight of what do we know about the tech talent workforce, and it is one that loves to reinvent, that loves opportunity and loves to create. And there's no better place in the nation to be able to do that than the Charlotte region. So that's some initial thoughts. We'll continue to develop and refine that along the way, but we think it'll be really important to play up that opportunity for anybody that decides to come here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Rob. I think we sell Charlotte every day on the quality of life, cost of living, connectivity, and especially just the energy the momentum in our community and city, and we particularly see that energy within the tech sector. I think when we think about branding and positioning in the market, we do need to work on very specifically launching a brand that is not just tied to financial technology. And I know that might be counterintuitive to your notion that the big tech employers drive the brand, but Charlotte, as Chuck mentioned at the in front of this presentation, is a very diverse economy, and the pipeline that we're seeing and the growth that we're seeing in technology really is across industries. And so our tech brand, I think, is one of diversification from our workforce as well as our industry. And again, just riding that momentum of a city that is just expertly positioned to continue to exceed in the future.
Well, I'm really excited about opportunities for some of our emerging industries and some growth in industries that we've had for a while, like the energy industry. Some potential breakthroughs in the next 10 years coming along the technological lines there that we can be primed for taking advantage of. So if you think about one of the big announcements of the last quarter was Arrival's headquarters in South End and their micro factory in Rock Hill. They'll be making electrical vehicles here. Battery storage is something we've historically done well at. Energy distribution is something we've done well at. If the technology's advancing there and we can take advantage of that and bring a software cluster around that, I think that would be an opportunity to really advance our brand to something very forward-looking.
That's great. We're starting to get some questions in, so let me read them out in the order that I'm getting them. So Zwick asked, big name tech companies play an oversized role in attracting high caliber tech talent, as well as establishing a brand for a city or region. Are there any strategic initiatives that the city and the industry are looking at to bring more big name tech companies to Charlotte, or to improve the brand recognition of like the local unicorns that we already have here?
Yeah, I think we just sort of answered that in part with your previous question. So we are being very intentional about developing marketing strategies and featuring our smaller kind of local companies who are exceeding in technology. Rob and I and Alyssa and Chuck are working on a strategy to, quite frankly, spend money in other markets. It costs money to get your name and brand out. And so with this new year, we're fortunate to have some opportunities to advertise Charlotte and Charlotte's tech sector in some of our targeted markets, where we will be, one, promoting the assets of our community, but secondly, also building brand and name recognition around our existing technology companies.
Yeah, I like that. The example that came to my mind are like places like Honeywell that are like moving into the area. And do we play, or do you all play a role in like helping lure Honeywells to this area? Or is it just, hey, they were coming and we were very good at helping that be easy?
I wish it were that easy.
Yep.
Sometimes they are coming, but no, with Honeywell was a very competitive project. And our team, our whole region worked that project. So yes, Honeywell, Centene, Arrival, those are all projects that were in our pipeline and that we successfully won through our business recruitment efforts. So we tell the story of Charlotte every day to companies such as those. We are, presenting data about our technology assets and the potential to grow. So through a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears in that recruitment process, we are intentionally bringing those communities to Charlotte, those companies to our community, and continue to work on our pipelines and our prospective business pipelines. It's a very active day-to-day job that we do in that regard.
Yeah, to kind of build on Emily's point, I mean, I think both organizations have a lot of dedicated resource to economic recruitment. And, we do that, the nice part, or the fortunate part about it, is that you can be hyper-targeted in it, because there are a few decision makers and influencers that you need to reach to get the message out there. And the other thing that, as we were talking about in the presentation, our quality of life and our cost of living for where you need to recruit that those companies and that talent from, we have an incredible advantage. So we can lead with our strengths. We know enough about, through, studying this, the subsector as well as the talent pool, what to say, and we know where to say it. So I think, it's a very intentional effort, John, and, it's working in collaboration kind of with the cities and other county partners throughout the region to get them there.
That's great. I think we had a follow-up maybe from Rishi.
Yeah. So guys, I'm listening to this thing, very impressive statistics and very numbers driven story here. So I'm trying to put, Chuck, what you said and what Alyssa and Rob and everyone said in the context of, look, the Charlotte market is growing because they're consuming companies. They're buyers of tech. Therefore, there's growth in tech talent, or consumers or buyers of technology. Now, Chuck, you did talk about verticalization, right? Built us a cluster around energy business. Does it mean that two things? One is the verticalization is gaining momentum, both from the perspective of how you guys go to market and sell Charlotte and invite companies headquarters, and also in terms of tech talent. Was there an element around verticalization there?
So I think there's both verticalization and horizontalization, if that's a word. I think we're seeing, traditionally our strength in financial technology and the need to invest in software and user experience in that has spun off a lot of startups and a lot of companies in different areas. If you spend all your time, spend 3 years working on a mobile app for a bank, maybe you can take those skills and create something different. But at the end of the day, we do have target clusters that are target industries, that are verticals, that are our strengths for our region that we want to build on. Tech gives us an opportunity to transfer some of those skills and into other areas and to push the frontier a little further out.
That's great. We got a few more coming in. So from Stan Simmons, the question is, with the acceleration of remote work, are we seeing talent come to Charlotte as a destination and then work elsewhere, or is the move still tied to a local job?
Yes, and yes. I think it's a both and. I think we know pre-COVID, a lot of people were looking at Charlotte because of the career opportunity. And then when they came here, they were really getting tied into the quality of life and the culture and the destination aspects. I think we're going to see, I think some of it remains to be seen with COVID trends. That kind of gets into where people will be working in the future. There's still a lot of mixed data and feedback that we're getting around what back to work looks like in the tech industry. Recently saw a survey that said 90% of employers surveyed in a particular survey plan to extend or maintain remote working over the next year. But we have also had conversations with some of our larger tech companies who have said, no, we're definitely coming back to office. And we have companies who are actively constructing office space in our employer centers, such as Uptown, South End, and University City. So I think the trends will be interesting to watch over the next year. But the answer to your question is we see both very frequently.
And I think most likely what we'll see is a hybrid model. A lot of companies moving to, I was talking to a company today, they're talking about creating a library space for their employees who may work from home three days a week, but have a place to come in to have those meetings as sort of a hybrid space. So they may still live in the region, but they may be willing to live further out because their commute to the city is, or to these cluster areas are still, less frequent than 5 days a week.
Great. Got another question here from Shalini. what tax incentives would be available to those looking to come out of state or even out of country? And I guess that's probably applies to both businesses and then anything at the employee level.
Generally, our tax incentives are tied to businesses. So we do have incentives at the local and state level to recruit companies into our market. And those incentives are calculated at the local level on the level of property investment that a company makes. So how the company improves our tax base for the city, its property taxes through either expanding or building a building or upfitting, things like that. So, and then at the state level, the incentives are generally driven by employee headcount and salary ranges. So there is a robust incentive program throughout the state of North Carolina and the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County to attract companies from out of state or even out of country. So if you've got any good leads, please send us an email or a private chat, and we'd be happy to follow up.
Excellent. Got a question here from Eric. Fantastic insights from Slalom, CRBA, City of Charlotte. Will the presentation and study be available after the presentation? And maybe where can people go find it?
Well, I can answer that. Boyana will be sharing the recording. It will be on our social media as well as on our YouTube channel. Thank you.
So I think that is the like this presentation. It looks like there might have been like a report behind the scenes. Is that being made available, or is this how that report is being distributed?
We're working on what that right platform looks like. Right now, this would be the presentation that would be available for kind of public consumption. We are in conversation about, where does this kind of work live on a website or a dashboard, and how do we then again like kind of regularly update it and make it more kind of real time and relevant to the trends that we're seeing. So I guess to be determined, but we will certainly let you know if there is another platform that is created to share these insights.
Awesome. We got another one here from David, and I guess I would structure it maybe a little bit more like a question. So, the comment here is most advertised IT jobs are contract positions, which are typically like, term limited, and then you have to kind of go figure the next one. Obviously, the pay of that is great. Are we doing anything in our area to either draw more contractors to the area or explicitly target the roles that we have in this area to contractors maybe in other locations?
That's a good question. I'm not aware of any specific efforts along that line. Along those lines, we're typically focused on more of those permanent, more of the company level, bringing companies in. But I think I think it's interesting to think about how we transfer those short-term contracts into longer-term talent development opportunities. So it's something for us to think about, I think.
Yeah, I think that the nurturing point somebody made earlier, it's not only about bringing great talent, but it's also growing the talent there. It feels like that might be a real opportunity for us to pursue people that are in the kind of like contractor cycle and a way to upskill them or better get them into a full-time role. So that's great. I know we're reaching the end of our time. I've gone through all of our Q&A. I think we could squeeze in one more if anybody's got it, whoever the fastest typer is. Or if you can beat me to asking one. It'll be one of the two.
In the meantime, John, JT, you can invite everyone for the February 18th event. Right?
Yep, that's true. So, as Chuck mentioned at the very beginning, our next event is on February 18th. It's going to be one of our UNCC Speaker Series events. You will get an email from the ABD Society with information on where to register. And then additionally, we are going to be sending out our 2021 full calendar of events for the year. So keep your eye out for that as well. All right, so last one that was added here was a comment from Shalini that said, the power of your local schools is a strong attraction. Are there any plans in place to collaborate with local schools to drive kind of incremental people into the area?
Daily. I think we consider our educational partners to be critical in our talent attraction and retention efforts. They contributed in this study. We talk to them on a regular basis. We bring them in front of companies to talk about recruiting, upskill opportunities, research and development partnerships and collaborations. So we are extremely fortunate to have strong partnerships and exceptionally strong educational institutions in Charlotte and in the region who are at the forefront of technology advancement. So yes, they are our close friends and stakeholders, and we collaborate with them on a daily basis.
Excellent. Well, back to our everybody standing up and cheering at home. Let's give a quick round of thanks again to our panelists for sharing this with us today. Thank you all. That was great, incredibly informative.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all. Pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.